Bani Israel क्या लोग कमाएं लाइन रुक नहीं पड़ा लेकिन थोड़े से वक्त में ज़्यादा समझ में देखा Not like that easy, but it's very easy. Monday and Thursday is Sunnah, everything. But Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever, don't take it at the day, but whatever day you very hard work out.
الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. While we are waiting for our brothers and sisters to get over slow and treacherous road, do you have any question or maybe comment or observation before we get into the ayat themselves? Ji, go ahead. Ji. Shukriya. The original Torah or original Injil is available anywhere in the world. Very good question. So the question is, if we say that Quran was in Lawh-e-Mahfuz, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has preserved it and taken the responsibility to preserve the Quran itself. First question is Torah or Injil, the original correct one. Are they available anywhere in the world? And if somehow they are not, why didn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve them as He preserved the Quran? Actually, both of the questions are very important, and they are asked by the Jews as well as by the Christians. First of all, Sayyidina Musa alayhi salatu wassalam was not sent to the entire universe. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it clear to him that he is sent to the children of Bani Israel. And Bani Israel was a small tribe. Even right now, Christians are over 2.5 billion, Muslims are close to 2, while the Jews are, after 5,000 years, almost 16 million. So you can imagine at the time of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, it must have been very small, tribe. Second thing, even Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, Isa alayhi salatu wasalam was also sent to the lost sheep of children of Israel, Bani Israel. So even his mission was local, tribal. And second thing is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam from the very beginning to the entire humanity. Ya ayyuhan nasu inni lakum nazirum mubin. Ya ayyuhan nas, O the people. Number two, because the Quran was going to be coming as the authentication of what was in Torah and what was in Injil. So Quran was the latest edition, and because the Quran was going to be for the entire humanity till the day of judgment, and because the Torah and Injil was going to be preserved through the Quran. So that's where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when preserved the Quran, it automatically preserved also the Torah as well as the Injil. So His promise of preserving them has been taken care of through the Quran itself, number one. Number two, even in the current Torah or in the current Injil, the original message is still preserved. The only problem is that it has been added to. So it is not like black and white as it is in the Quran, because the text of the Quran is preserved as it was revealed to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it is black and white when it comes to the concept of one God, concept of morality, don't kill, don't cheat, and even when it comes to the concept of akhirah. I mean, you will not pass through a single page of the Quran without getting that message reinforced. you would see that the same message is still available in the Torah and still available in the Injil, but it has been mixed. And not only mixed, but reinterpreted in such a fashion that the gold and the dross has mixed up. So yes, the original Torah and the original message of Injil is still available. But you have to sift through. Just take the example. If you go to the current Torah right now, you would see some of the ayat are pinpointedly talking about the one and only God. But then many of the sifat of Allah, remember, say for example, you say Brother Ansari. Now Brother Ansari has got one being, but how is he defined? By his name and also by the qualities of life which he shows, or the sifat or the attributes. In the same fashion, when we say one God, that God is defined by the names. We say he is Ar-Rahman, he is Ar-Rahim, he is Muhyi, he is Mumit, he is Ar-Razaq. So these names and these sifat are defining who is that God. Then there are sifat, attributes of Allah. Say for example, he is very kind, he is very generous, he is Rauf, he is Rahim. So these are the things which are what? Defining Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Torah part, which is right now, they did not compromise on the concept of oneness of God, but then they compromised on the issues of his name and on the issues of his attributes. And I have given you the examples in the past. Say for example, when you say Inna Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is qadir upon everything. Nobody can challenge him, nobody can doubt his knowledge, nobody can question his wisdom. So if there is any verse in the Torah or Injil which will question his authority, or compromise or question his wisdom or knowledge, it's going to put some kind of loophole in the type of respect you have got for God. Now imagine, when you just mention the name of Allah, does anybody doubt that he knows everything? He is with me, he watches everything, he can do whatever he wants to do. Our action may be something different. We may not show that we are afraid of him, or we may not feel his presence, but no Muslim will say, no, he does not know this corner of the masjid or that corner of the masjid. But what happens is that, like we have got this text of the Quran. Now, the tafsir of the Quran comes separate than the Quran itself. Actually, this is where, when Sahaba Ridwanullah alayhim ajmain started writing, Rasulullah sallam will have an ayah of the Quran, and then he will explain it. So Sahaba started writing the text of the Quran, but also the tafsir which the Prophet ﷺ is explaining. So initially the Prophet ﷺ said, La taktubu anni, don't write from me. Because if you will write from me, you will mix it up with the text of the Quran. Am I clear? So they used to write the ayah, and then in the parenthesis, the explanation of. So initially the Prophet ﷺ said, don't write the hadith from me, just write the Quran. Why? Because he wanted to solidify the text. Once it is validated, it is known to everybody, then they can write from the hadith of Rasulullah. So now what happened, that in the situation of Torah, when the original text was there, people wrote the explanation when the Anbiya did, or when the scholars did, and when they are taken into the Babylonian exile, as you know, for 70 years. Number one, their temple was destroyed, their books were burned. It is just like, say for example, just the example. You've got only 2 million Palestinians in Gaza. 1 million you kill them, you destroy everything, and then you take that 1 million which is left, say for example Iraq or Jordan or Turkey, for 70 years. Now when they will come back, they will not know much of what was going on. So this is where when they came, they mixed up that tafsir and the original. Am I clear? But in the Quran, this is what has been taken care of from the very beginning. That's where you see not a word of a Sahabi or Rasulullah sallam or anything in the text of the Quran. So when you go to the Torah, you will still find, because your question is, where is the original text found? It is found there, but you have to sift through. Is that okay? Did it clear the? Okay. Let's go, inshallah. If you will take also the MashaAllah Quran with you, it will make it easy for you, if you want to, because I think it's easier to go through the translation as well as the tafsir when you are looking at it. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So far, what we have done, we have basically established the main categories which Allah has established within the first 20 verses of Surah Al-Baqarah. We said in Surah Al-Fatiha, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala divided humanity into two main categories. An'amta alayhim, those upon whom Allah showered His bounties, one category. Second category, ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin, those who earned His anger, which means intentionally, knowingly. After getting the knowledge, they denied the hukum. And the second category, they were confused, they did not understand, and basically they might be sincere, but they were misguided. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, now in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has divided humanity into two main portions. One is believers and the others are non-believers. Among the believers, He has given us four categories, which I talked about last time. Muslim, Mu'min, Muttaqi, or the person who has got the Yaqeen, and the Muhsin. So among the people of Iman, He has given us what? Four categories. Somebody who just accepts Islam, does the outward stuff, that is Muslim. When his actions and his inner self, they reconcile, he becomes mu'min. When because of those actions, outward and inward, when they go to the level that he starts reflecting upon the universe and starts seeing things as if they are happening based upon certainty, he becomes what? Muttaqi or Mutayaqin. And when he goes to that level where he sees Allah, when he is praying as if he is standing in front of Allah, or if he is unable to feel that I am looking at Jannah, Jahannam and Allah, at least he feels he is watching. So that is the level of Muhsin. Then we also defined the Yaqeen into three levels. Last week, when I was talking about the Yaqeen, I said there are three categories of Yaqeen. First is Ilm-ul-Yaqeen, the certainty which is based upon information, knowledge. Somebody tells me there is snowing outside, I trust that person. I have not seen the snow, I'm still sitting inside, but I believe it is snowing. So that is the certainty which is based upon the information, knowledge, or something which I trust, but I have not witnessed. Second category of Yaqeen is Ain-ul-Yaqeen. When I see that snow with my own eyes, I cannot deny it. And the third category of Yaqeen is Haq-ul-Yaqeen. When I go and touch that snow, I feel cold. No, I cannot deny that this is snow. Am I clear? So, and I gave the example last week. Somebody comes and says, fire burns. This is Ilm-ul-Yaqeen. I heard it. People said it. When I sit closer to that heater and feel the heat, this is Ain-ul-Yaqeen. Haq-ul-Yaqeen is if I incidentally put my hand on the heater and it burns it, there's no way I'm going to be doubting it at all. So that is also what? Haq-ul-Yaqeen. All of these are categories I just mentioned to you. Today, after talking about basically the first part, which is Muttaqeen, today I'm going to start talking about the Kuffar and the Munafiqeen. As I mentioned last week and before, that we made the dua, Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the first 20 verses of Surah Al-Baqarah has generically answered that. If you want the guidance, you want to be guided, then these are the three categories. Avoid the last two and become part of the first ones and grow into it. Remember, from the very beginning, you will not be on the path of what? An'amta alayhim. In the beginning, you will start the map, then you will travel through this distance, you will see all of those signs, it will authenticate that you are on the right path, then the time will come that you will reach to your destination, and even after reaching to your destination, it's not that you will be totally settled, then you will get to your mansion or to your hotel, you settle down. This is where you are going to be comfortable after this long journey. So these four processes which I mentioned to you, these are those four processes which will take you to the level of Iqan or the level of Ihsan. Now after that 5 ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the Kufr in only 2 verses. And today we are beginning that. Inna alladhina kafar. Inna in Arabic language comes for ta'keed, for certainty. Certainly those kafaru who denied, who committed kufr. Sawa'un alayhim, it's equal for them. A'anzartahum, whether you warn them, am lam tunzirhum, or you do not warn them, la yu'minun, they are not going to have iman. Iman bil ghaib, we talked about. Iman bil akhirah, we talked about. So here the kuffar are going to be fundamentally denying these 2 things. One is Iman bil ghaib. Now what does Iman bil ghaib include? Allah, Rasul, Jannah, Jahannam, the things which are not seen. Ghaib, I mentioned to you, something which cannot be seen by your 5 senses. Experience, seen, touched, this is ghaib. So they are not going to believe in that, and they are not going to believe in akhirah. Now in Arabic language, kafir, I told you even one time before, when the farmer plows the soil, makes it very soft, and then puts the seed in it, and then puts another layer on it, so that seed goes inside the soil, this is called kufr. He knows, but he is intentionally doing it, what? Covering it up. This is called kufr. When somebody does good to you, you know you have benefited from it, but then you do not thank him, you do not even recognize that, it becomes kufran in ni'mah. Am I clear? So kufr has got, the essence of kufr is after knowing something, intentionally denying. So innal lazina kafaru, those people who intentionally reject, sawa'un alayhim. Now if you look at the word sawa'un alayhim, it is equal for them, whether you warn them or you do not warn them. But that does not mean that you should not warn them. Stop talking to them. Stop inviting them. Stop what? Reminding them. You should do it. But whatever you do, it's equal for them. Sawa'un alayhim. It's equal for them, whether you teach them million times, they are not going to believe. But that does not mean that you should stop calling them, advising them, and warning them. Number two, the word inzar. Say for example, you look at the tsunami. You must have seen some of those videos. When the earthquake came and the basically government said the tsunami is coming, you saw there were some people on the speaker. Tsunami is coming, take shelter, go to the, higher ground, such and such. This is what is called inzar. Its translation, darana jo hai na, that's not the right, translation? Warning. And warning out of love, for the sake of compassion, for the sake of giving them warning based upon love, save yourself. This is called inzar. Now, Nadhir and Bashir, these are the two words which Quran uses. The Prophet ﷺ is a warner, and he is also a Bashir. Bashir is from Bashara, Basharat them. Now, Basharat, when somebody comes to you and gives you glad tidings, you have gotten what? Your degree. MashaAllah, your son is coming. So there is sense of surur, sense of happiness which comes with Bashara. So Bashara is when you give something about the future with the sense of surur, khushi se. And Nazir is when you give a warning and you are doing it based upon your love and say, I want to save you, but I'm telling you there is something wrong, take care of it. So this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna allazina kafur. Those who knowingly have denied Allah, Rasul, Quran, Akhirah, it does not matter. You can talk to them million times, you can talk to them zillion times because they have made up their mind, and because after knowing they have covered that seed. Am I clear? They are not going to believe. Khatam Allahu ala qulubihim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sealed upon their hearts. Khatam in Arabic language, when you put the package and at the end of the package, you have seen, they put what? The seal. So this is what is called khatam. Khatam Allahu ala qulub. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put the seal upon their hearts. Wa ala sam'ihim, and upon their ability to hear, upon their ears. Wa ala absarihim ghishawa, and upon their eyes there is what? Cover. وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ, and for them is the grand punishment. Now look at two concepts. This concept confuses a lot of people. Now when the Quran says, خَتَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ, Allah has put the seal upon their heart. So people think it is Allah who has stopped them from guidance, because He put the seal upon their heart. He put the seal upon their ears. He put the ghishawa upon their eyes. So what is their mistake? If Allah is the one who seals their heart and eyes, and they are misled, it's not because of them, it's because of what? The action of Allah. And this kind of interpretation sometimes is substantiated by what we call qada and qadar. So sometimes you hear those kind of ahadith in which we are told that a person does good deed throughout his life. But because it is written in the book of Allah that this person is going to be in Jahannam, so at the end of his life he does one evil stuff and he ends up in Jahannam because it was written for him. And there are some other ahadith, they would say a person does all evil, but because it is written that he is going to go to Jannah, so he does something good at the end of his life, so he ends up in Jannah because it was written for him. Now when you look at the ayat of the Quran, فَمَن يَهْدِيهِ, who can guide somebody whom Allah misguides? And who can misguide somebody whom Allah guides? So when you look at all of these kind of discussion, it seems as if the Quran is also substantiating what we call the arbitrary predestination. You know predestination, qada and qadir, that we are predestined. So the Jannah and Jahannam is determined by Allah as if our actions have got no, effect upon it. Actually, this is what I want to clarify from the very beginning. This ayah comes after they have committed kufr. While they have been given warning after warning. But those warnings are not affecting them. They have made up their mind that they are not going to believe. So as the result of that stubbornness, Allah has sealed their heart. Am I clear? Allah has not sealed their heart from the very beginning. Am I clear? If Allah has sealed their heart and decided they are going to be in Jahannam, then what is the point of sending this Quran? What is the point of sending all the prophets? What is the point of giving your conscience, which is your zamir? And actually even before the Quran, before the Prophet ﷺ, this conscience is the first agent of Allah. This is the first light which blinks when we do something against Allah. So if that conscience is open, clear, and is still alive, even when you think of stealing or cheating or lying, this is the first one which blinks and says, don't do it. This is wrong. Am I clear? Quran is not there. Rasul is not there at that time. And this is one of the reasons that some of the scholars, they are of the opinion, and I want to make it clear because this is a point which is very confusing to many Muslims, qada and qadar issue. Some of the scholars, they say, if we say that only the Quran is the source of guidance, and without Prophet Muhammad sallam or without Prophet, people cannot understand the right from wrong, then all of those people who did not receive a book or who did not receive a prophet, how can Allah put them in Jannah or Jahannam? And actually the Quran says, وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا. We will not punish the people until we send the prophet to them. How could Allah punish somebody and say, I will burn you in Jahannam for eternity, and he has not heard what is right and what is wrong? So therefore, people like Mu'tazilites, some of the Muslim philosophers, some of the Muslim theologians also, they believe that the command of Allah is in every human being's fitrah. When Allah created us, He put in us what we call conscience, zamir. That is the agent which is given to every human being. Based upon that zamir, even a child knows that killing is bad. Even the person who is stealing, if you ask him, why are you stealing? He will not say, it's fun. He would say, I was hungry, my children were... He will come up with 10 different excuses. If you ask a murderer, that murderer will come, I was angry. He did such and such to me. He stole from me. He did. Nobody would say killing is very good. It's fun. So that is the first line of what? Divine guidance, fitrah. The Quran, Torah, they are secondary source. Prophets, all of them, they idealize that what is actually, they highlight or they polish your inner self, your fitrah, your zamir. So therefore, here when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, خَتَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ, it is not arbitrary that Allah did not like them and He put the seal upon their heart. They have committed the kufr and they have been reminded, million times. But now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam Whether you remind them 100 times, they are not going to believe. So it's not that you stop it, it is only don't die for them. Because the Prophet ﷺ used to go crazy. He would not sleep. He will go from, street to street. So it is consolation to Rasulullah ﷺ that it is not your mistake. It is that their response has basically been what? Their responsibility has been destroyed. Number one. Number two, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, خَتَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَىٰ قُلُوبِهِمْ وَعَلَىٰ سَمْعِهِمْ. So seal is upon their heart and upon their ears, but upon their eyes is what? Ghishawa, the cover. Some of the scholars, they said that a person gets the information from all sorts of directions. When a person hears, if somebody speaks over there, my ear will hear it. If somebody speaks from there, it's always from what? All four sides, up, down, wherever. And the same thing happens with my heart. Because whatever comes through the ears goes to the heart. Whatever people see, whatever they gather, it goes to the heart. So over there, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving the example of complete blockage. That their heart and their ears are what? Sealed. They don't hear. Because there are two kinds of eyes. One is this physical eye, and the second is the eye of the heart. And Quran says, فَإِنَّهَا لَا تَعْمَى الْأَبْصَارِ وَلَكِنْ تَعْمَى الْقُلُوبُ الَّتِي فِي الصُّدُورِ. It's not that their eyes are blind. External eyes are not blind. But their internal eyes of the heart are blind. Am I clear? So, basically, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the seal of the ears and the heart, it is as if they are completely what? Not responding or listening to that guidance. But can my eye see 4 dimensions? I can see only 1 dimension. Am I clear? So when you put the cover on the eyes, can a person see from any other way? So that's where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about what? Sealing what? The ears and the heart and putting the cover upon. So basically what happens is that they're all avenues of knowledge, guidance and response have been what? Annihilated. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَقُولُ وَمِنَ النَّاسِ, and among the people, مَنْ يَقُولُ, who says. Now remember, الناس is the total people. Min comes للتبعيد, some, बाज, कहते हैं ना बाज लोग ऐसे. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not to say all the people are like that, because there are some mu'mineen, there are some munafiqeen, there are some kuffar. So what he says, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ, and among the people there are some. مَنْ يَقُولُ, who says, آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ, we have believed in Allah, وَبِالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ, and in the day of judgment, وَمَا هُمْ بِمُؤْمِنِينَ, and they are not the believers. Now remember, Muttaqeen and Mu'mineen, 5 ayat. 2 ayat basically about the kufr, because a kafir is black and white. But then, now this is the 3rd category, which is going to be the category of Nifaq. It looks outside something and inside it is shallow. I said to you, Nifaq is from Nafaq. Nafaq is the tunnel. Outside it seems like mountain, inside it is what? Shallow. So a munafiq is that who outside looks like full of iman. He is with you. He says, I am a Muslim, but inside he is what? Shallow. So this is now, among the people there are some who say, we believe in Allah and we believe in the day of judgment, but they are not believers. This ayah can basically refer to at least few groups. First group is among the Muslims. that among the Muslims there are some who say we believe in Allah, we believe in Akhirah, but their actions do not show the belief in Allah or the reflection of the authentic knowledge of Akhirah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says they do not have the real faith. But this ayah can also apply upon the Jews. Jews say, we believe in Allah, they believe in God, and we believe in Akhirah. Am I clear? This is what happens in Medina. These ayat are being revealed in Medina. In Medina, there are 2 or 3 kinds of audiences of the Quran. First of all, the Muslims. Second is Ahlul Kitab, and among them Jews are in Medina. They are the direct audience. And third is the mushrikeen of Arab, those who are Arabs and they are polytheists. So even this ayah can address even the Jews. They believe that we believe in Allah, God, one God, but their concept of God did not make them have the self-purification in such a fashion that they will listen to Rasulullah sallam or they will listen to the ahkam of the Quran. Second thing also, their concept of Akhirah was not revolutionary enough to make the changes which the Quran said, وَبِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ يُوقِنُونَ. Now Muslims started seeing as if they are seeing the Jannah with their own eyes. They did not have any doubt about Jahannam or Jannah or accountability, and actually that was the most revolutionary concept which Islam brought. But the Jews, they were mutaraddideen, they were mudhabzabeen, they were confused. First of all, they said, we are the children of Ibrahim, we are the chosen people. If there is Akhirah, Allah will not punish us. نَحْنُ أَبْنَاءُ اللَّهِ وَأَحِبَّاؤُهُ. We are the chosen people of God, we are His children, and God is not going to punish us if there is Akhirah. And if there is punishment, it's not going to be long for us. He will just punish us for some time, just as admonition from grandfather, and then He is going to take us to Jannah. Now these type of concepts, when a person has got wrong hope, am I clear? If you think that the police guy is your uncle and he is not going to give you the ticket, you are not going to be afraid of speeding. If I'm caught, he will call, but if you know, no, I will be in jail, then even there is slightest sense of police presence anywhere, you will start paying attention. Quranic concept was no, nobody, even Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam cannot do anything for his own daughter or children. Everybody is responsible for their own action. So here, Amanna billahi wa bil yawmil akhir can apply upon the Jews. It can also apply upon the Christians. Now they believe in God, one God, but the way they believe, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, and then even their concept of Akhirah, I can play around, I can fool around, I can drink, I can womanize, I can do anything. Jesus died for my sin. As soon as I close my eyes, I am in Jannah. Is it going to stop them from doing wrong thing? And then the third issue is among the Muslims. That among the Muslims there are some who say we believe in Allah and we believe in Akhirah. But when it comes to making the actions, following the ahkam, based upon that iman, that is different than their statement, assertion. And this is what the greatest number among the believers, even among the Muslims. This is the greatest category of people whose external statement or assertions do not match up with their what? Internal reactions. If you ask a Muslim, do you believe in Allah? What are you asking? He is my God. Do you believe in Akhirah? But if you look at the actions of the Ummah, you would see many of them do not show by their actions that I believe in Akhirah. Do you think if somebody believes that Allah is with me, would that person be running the entire country based upon bribe? Don't you think our entire society is based upon bribe? Unfortunately, our entire society is based upon what? Astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. I don't want to use झूठ जो है वो हमारी रग रग में भर गया है. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us in our society, even from our children, to what those values are not being followed. When it comes to justice, when it comes to fair dealing, I mean, with all honesty, you cannot trust even sometimes your closest friend when it comes to these internal issues, financial issues. So, if a person believes that Allah is with me, if a person believes that pretty soon I am going to answer for these things, when we know police is going to catch us, IRS is going to catch us, an official is going to catch us, and I can tell you a lie, right now, I remember coming with a friend in the flight, and during the flight, he was deleting some of the posts he did on the Facebook. I asked, he said, man, these people, they know it, so I'm just deleting it so that they can't see it. And I was wondering, and then he says, now you know, everything we talk on the phone is recorded. Everything we post is recorded. Man, they have become like Munkar and Nakir. We have to be very careful. And I was wondering after, this is the concept. Now this person and me and everybody knows that these immigration people can see on the computer what we write. So we are just careful even. But is it true that Allah knows more than the immigration guys? He has the capacity to record, to make video. If this worldly powers and corporation, even nowadays, your bosses, they can have access to what you say, what you write on email. And don't you think that Allah has got that capacity? Kunna nastansikhu ma kuntum ta'malun. Quran says, we were making nuskhas, copies of what you were doing. Kunna nastansikh, nuskha कहते हैं ना, कॉपी है ना, इसका नुस्खा बनाना. वो बीमारी वाला नुस्खा नहीं. This is copy. We were copying what you were doing and putting it in your files. Now, if a person can have this kind of belief in Allah and belief in Akhirah that nuskha, those videos are going to be presented to me, don't you know that that person's behavior is going to be different than the person who does not care and believe? So this is what it is basically referring to, the type of hypocrisy among the believers. يُخَادِعُونَ اللَّهِ. Now, خَدَعَ يَخْدَعُ and خَادَعَ يُخَادِعُ. Khada, basically, when somebody deceives somebody or is deceived by himself, but khada yukhadi'u, there must be two parties. It is just like sara yusari'u. You can't have fight with your own self. You have to have fight with somebody. You can't wrestle by yourself. You have to have another wrestler. So this is the type of fi'l which is yukhadi'un Allah. There are two parties, Allah on one side and these hypocrites on one side. They deceive Allah thinking that they can deceive Him. Am I clear? So yukhadi'un Allah walladhina amanu. They deceive Allah and they deceive those who are the believers. When they come to the believers, they say, we are Muslims like you. We believe in the same Quran. We believe in the same God. وَمَا يَخْدَعُونَ إِلَّا أَنفُسُهُمْ. But they do not deceive anybody except their own selves. وَمَا يَشْعُرُونَ, and they do not even have the shu'ur. How could somebody deceive Allah? Yes, to the mu'mineen, you can come and say, I believe in the Quran, I believe in the Rasul, but I'm not coming to the masjid because I am sick, or because my son was in the school, so I could not come for Jum'ah, or my job did not allow me. Yes, you can talk to the mu'mineen like that, but does Allah not know the reality of what is happening? So there's no way a person can what? Deceive Allah. You are not deceiving anybody except your own self, but you don't have even the comprehension that this act is going to be what? Destroying you in Akhirah. You cannot deceive Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any way or form. So, my respected brothers and sisters, يُخَادِعُونَ اللَّهَ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَمَا يَخْدَعُونَ إِلَّا أَنفُسَهُمْ وَمَا يَشْعُرُونَ is the greatest warning for many of us. As I have said it sometime in the Jummah khutbah, that our nafs, oh my God, it's already 7:55. We have to call the azan. Oh, 53. That is 57. This is 53. It's okay. Alhamdulillah. I'll complete the idea. You know, our nafs starts with these simple things. And I gave the example that, listen,